12 years. 12 years of sweat, silence, and sacrifice. And with one sentence, my father ended it all. "You're done here, Colton." I stood in the executive boardroom, my name stripped from the wall, my badge deactivated. "Yes, sir," I whispered. Then I walked out, into the autumn wind of Davenport, Iowa, numb, alone, empty. But here's the thing. They thought they buried me that day. They didn't know. That was the day I came alive. Have you ever been betrayed by your own blood? Drop your state below. And don't forget to subscribe for real revenge. I was raised between steel beams and the smell of machine oil. Vance Forge Works wasn't just where I worked. It was where I belonged. My name's Colton Vance, 36 years old, senior production engineer at the manufacturing company my father built from the ground up. They used to call me the machine whisperer because I could hear a pressure valve failing 2 rooms away. I knew which conveyor belt needed rest before the alarm did. I could sense a hydraulic leak before a single drop hit the floor. I showed up before sunrise, left long after dark. The floors creaked in familiar patterns. The red indicator lights blinked like old friends. The hum of compressors felt like a pulse I lived by. I worked through blizzards, through the flu, through my own divorce. 12 years. No long vacations. No holidays off. No complaints. My boots were always on the floor. My hands always smelled like grease and cold steel. My back ached, my knuckles cracked, my shoulders stiff, but I never stopped. Because I thought loyalty still meant something. I thought if I gave everything someday, my father would finally say, "You've made me proud." But he never did. Not once. Franklin Vance didn't do praise. He did expectations. He was a man who built things, not people. When I was a kid, he didn't say "good job." He just nodded and handed me the next tool. At work, it was the same. If something broke, I fixed it. If someone quit, I trained the replacement. He never asked how I was doing, just whether the line was running on time. Then there was Troy, my half-brother, 9 years younger, lived in clean shoes and cologne, spent more time in conference rooms than in work boots. But Dad treated him like a rising star, called him visionary. I once overheard him say, "Colton knows machines, but Troy knows the market." It hit me harder than I expected. I knew that factory inside out. I bled in that factory. I saved it from collapse more than once. But none of that mattered. 2 months before the end, I started noticing things. My name was missing from emails. My designs were being refiled under joint development. The key card I used every morning suddenly beeped red on certain doors. Then came the meeting I was excluded from, a budget review for a project I had created. I asked Dad about it. He didn't answer, just said, "Focus on your work." I tried to believe it was nothing, that maybe I was being paranoid, but I could feel it. The air had changed. People looked at me differently, colder, more careful. Then came the call. A Thursday morning. The sky was gray, leaves scattered across the parking lot. Wind pressed against the glass walls of the plant. My phone buzzed. One sentence. "Come to the executive floor. Bring your badge." I didn't ask questions. I didn't need to. I already knew. The carpet muffled my footsteps as I stepped onto the executive floor. Bright windows, glossy panels. Everything up here smelled like polish and money. I hadn't been summoned here in over a year. My badge still worked, but it buzzed longer than usual. Something felt off. Franklin Vance sat at the head of the boardroom table, back straight, hands folded. His jaw was locked tight, eyes empty. On his left was Karen Shaw from legal. On his right, Troy, wearing that smug little smirk he always saved for "I told you so" moments. My boots were still wet from the rain outside. I stood there in silence, waiting for someone to speak. "Colton," my father said. "Sit." His voice was flat, cold. I didn't move. "What's this about?" Karen slid a manila folder across the table. When I didn't reach for it, she opened it herself. Inside, printed emails. My name on everyone, from my company account to Halcyon Systems. Subject lines: confidential production specs, projected rates, prototype details. I froze. "These were sent from your terminal," Karen said, "using your credentials. That's not possible." My voice cracked. I reached for the papers, the dates. They lined up with days I stayed late, nights I worked alone. Troy leaned back, arms crossed. It's not just the emails. You also accessed protected folders, finance, R&D. That's not true. Franklin didn't flinch. I gave you everything, I said quietly. 12 years, you think I'd sell us out? He said nothing. Dad, you embarrassed this family. His voice cut like a knife. You compromised our IP. You gave away our legacy. No, I said louder now. I didn't send these. This isn't me. Karen spoke again. We've already brought in cybersecurity. They confirmed the access trail. You're making a mistake. My chest tightened. My jaw clenched. Troy tilted his head. Just admit it, Colton. You couldn't handle being left out of the new project, so you lashed out. I turned to him, fists curled, blood rushing. My father stood. It's done. Effective immediately, you're terminated. I stared at him. You're really doing this. He looked away. Karen handed me a form. Security clearance revoked, badge deactivated, benefits suspended, no severance. 12 years, erased in under 10 minutes. I picked up the folder, then stopped. I left it on the table. You'll regret this, I whispered. No one answered. I walked out. No goodbye, no handshake, just silence. The hallway felt longer than usual, colder. Outside rain lashed the windows. The door clicked behind me. I heard Troy laugh. The door shut behind me. Rain hit like gravel across my face. Wind howled through the lot, whipping my coat open. I stood there a moment, just breathing, just trying not to scream. 12 years, gone, like it meant nothing. I got in my truck. The engine clicked twice before turning over. Same way it always did. I drove, no direction, no plan, just wet roads and a stomach full of stone. The apartment smelled like old coffee and oil. I dropped my keys, left my boots by the door, sat in the dark. The heater ticked once, then again. My body still felt like it was in that boardroom, stiff, locked, waiting for a punch that had already landed. I looked at my hands, calloused, greasy, shaking. 12 years of loyalty, 12 years of sweat and silence, thrown out like a worn-out tool. I leaned back on the couch. The leather creaked under me. Across the room was the photo, me and Dad at the ribbon-cutting ceremony. I was 24, smiling like I'd made it. He wasn't smiling, just staring at the camera like it owed him something. I stood, took the frame off the shelf, held it. It felt heavier than it should have. I thought of the nights I stayed late, the weekends I skipped, the Christmas Eve I slept in the boiler room to stop a line shutdown, and he fired me like I was a stranger. My phone buzzed. I didn't move. Buzzed again. I grabbed it. Unknown number. I almost let it go. But something in me said pick up. I swiped. Didn't say a word. A man's voice low and cautious. Colton, it's Ravi, from IT. I sat up. I heard what happened, he said. I don't believe it. You didn't do this. My throat tightened. I don't know what they showed you, I said, but I didn't send those files. A pause. I think I can prove it, he said. You free tomorrow, I hesitated. Why are you helping me? Because when they tried to fire me last year, you fought to keep me. You remember that I did. You saved my job, Colton. Maybe now I can return the favor. Silence. Then meet me at Kenna's diner. 9 a.m. He hung up. I stared at the black screen. Rain kept tapping the window. Slow, steady, relentless. I set the photo face down, sat back on the couch. And for the first time since the boardroom, I felt something sharp. Not sadness, not shock, but heat, a low burn in the chest. Something close to anger. No, something closer to purpose. Kenna's diner smelled like burnt toast and yesterday's bacon. The kind of place with cracked booths and bottomless coffee. I walked in with my hood-up coat dripping from the morning storm. Ravi sat in the corner. Laptop open, eyes scanning code, hands trembling slightly over his cup. He looked up when I slid into the booth. You look like hell. I didn't smile. Let's skip the compliments. He turned the screen toward me. This is your access log from the company server, he said. Pulled before they locked me out. Rows of timestamps, IP addresses, session IDs. It shows your terminal was used to send the emails. I leaned forward. Exactly, my terminal. Ravi nodded, but not your login. Pause. What he tapped a line on the screen. This access came through a maintenance override. He tapped again. Then a remote session was initiated using a cloned credential. That means someone sat at another machine, triggered a shadow login into yours, and sent everything from there. I stared at the screen. You can trace where it came from. Ravi nodded once. Already did. He opened a new window. Routing log, firewall flags, MAC address, a device ID I knew by heart. That's Troy's laptop. My breath caught in my throat. Troy, I triple-checked it, Ravi said. He used your recovery key, the one from back in 2020 when we upgraded security protocols. I blinked. No one outside the core tech team even knew that existed. Exactly. Ravi leaned in. He was watching you, studying your access, probably for months. My hands curled into fists on the table. A waitress passed behind us with a tray of eggs and hash. The smell turned my stomach. I swallowed. He framed me, I said. Ravi's voice was quiet. Looks like it, and my father believed it. He nodded. My throat was dry, my jaw tight, my heart pounding loud enough to hear. Can you send me everything Ravi opened a drive? Plugged it in. Copied the logs. Colton, he paused. They're not going to just let this slide. You expose this, it gets messy. I looked out the window. Rain streaked across the glass in jagged lines. I'm not looking to start a war, I said. I turned back. But if one's already started, I'm not walking away from it either. I took the flash drive, slipped it into my coat pocket, stood. Ravi stayed seated. You're going to fight this, no? I stepped back. I'm going to finish it. Miranda Ross didn't talk much, but when she did, you listened. Her office was quiet. Too quiet. The air smelled like lavender sanitizer and paper. She closed the door behind me, turned the blinds. Sit down. I did. She pulled a flash drive from her drawer, set it on the table. You didn't get this from me. I nodded. Miranda clicked her mouse. Files filled the screen. Invoices, transfer memos, dummy accounts, line after line, all tied to something called Riverpoint Solutions. What is this, I asked. She scrolled slowly. It's a shell company. Troy set it up last year. Told accounting it was a third-party design consultancy. The numbers blurred in front of me. $5.3 million, she said. My stomach twisted. He used internal R&D budget to funnel cash, labeled it as prototype support. I leaned in. Prototype, she clicked again. A name appeared on the screen. Forge Max. I froze. That was mine. My design. My system. My blood and sleep and years. He sold my work, I whispered. Miranda didn't look away. Half those invoices have your name in the project originator field. If anyone ever audits this, you take the fall. I stood up. Too fast. My chair scraped loud against the floor. My head spun. My hands clenched. He's been using me as a front. Miranda closed the file. I tried to flag it, but Franklin overrode every warning, said Troy had approval. My throat went dry. I looked at her. You knew, she looked down. I suspected, but without hard proof. She opened a drawer, pulled out a thick manila envelope. I printed everything before the finance system got scrubbed. She pushed it toward me. I took it with both hands. Heavy, thick. You'll want to move fast, she said. Troy's been meeting with investors, pitching the Forge Max as his flagship. I couldn't breathe. 12 years of loyalty, 12 years of solving their fires, patching their failures, protecting their damn name. All while they set me up as the fall guy. I held the envelope against my chest. It felt like holding my own life. Miranda stood, one hand on the door. You didn't deserve this, she said softly. I hope you burn them both. I didn't answer. I walked out. The hallway echoed under my boots. Outside, the clouds were darker than before, but the fire inside me brighter, stronger, hotter. The Mississippi River moved slow behind my apartment, thick, dark, like it was carrying secrets. I stood on the balcony, the manila folder clutched in one hand, Miranda's flash drive in the other. My breath fogged in the cold. Troy had stolen everything. My work, my trust, my name, and my father handed him the knife. 12 years ago, I walked into the plant for the first time as an employee. Franklin handed me a badge. Didn't smile. Didn't say, welcome. Just nodded. You mess up. He said, you're not my son on this floor. I thought he was tough. Now I know better. He was cruel. I dropped the flash drive on the table, sat down, put my head in my hands. Could I really do this? Expose Troy, expose Franklin, wreck the family name, destroy everything I spent my life building? Yes, because they already destroyed me. Another flashed me at 8 years old, holding up my report card. All A's. Troy had spilled paint on the carpet. Dad whipped off his belt, but not at Troy. At me. Should have stopped him, he snapped. I hadn't even been in the room. My eyes burned. I looked at the folder. The envelope bulged with proof. Cold, ugly truth, but truth still. I whispered I didn't burn this house down. Pause. They lit the match. The sky turned gray. Wind shook the trees. The river kept moving. I stood, put the flash drive in my pocket, tucked the envelope under my arm, walked back inside, and closed the door behind me. Hard. The next morning I shaved, pressed my shirt, polished my boots. War deserves a uniform. I didn't sleep, didn't need it. I drove downtown, walked into Halcyon Systems with a manila envelope and a name. Receptionist raised an eyebrow. You have an appointment. No, I said, but show this to Gregory Shaw. Tell him it's urgent. She took the envelope. Disappeared. I waited. 10 minutes, then 20. Then Mr. Vance, I stood. A man in a dark blue vest greeted me at the glass door. Greg Shaw, R&D Director. Come in. We walked through bright corridors. Clean, sharp, nothing like Vance Forge Works. He led me into a conference room. I dropped the second folder on the table. A prototype spec. My spec. Forge Max. My name at the bottom. Date stamped 2 years ago. He flipped through it silent, then stopped. This is impressive. I said nothing. Didn't Vance just announce this design? Yeah, I said. They stole it. He looked up. From you, I nodded once. I have the logs, the transfer files, a paper trail that ends with my brother in a bank account in Delaware. His eyes narrowed. You want a job? No, I said. I want a platform. 2 weeks later, I had a desk at Halcyon. Small room, big window, a team of 3 engineers who actually listened. I called the project Reforge. Same concept. New core, better software, better ethics. I worked 12 hours a day, sometimes more. I rebuilt every piece of the Forge Max code without the shortcuts, without the cost cuts Troy had made to impress investors. The first prototype ran smooth. By month's end, we presented it at an industry showcase in Chicago. Press was there, analysts, procurement teams from 5 major contractors. I didn't speak on stage, didn't need to. Greg did the talking. I stood in the back, watched the crowd lean in. One man asked, isn't this just a copy of the Vance ForgeWorks design? Greg smiled. No, it's the original. 2 days later, Vance lost its first major client. Not publicly, not in headlines, but in contracts, because Halcyon offered a better system, cheaper, cleaner, and with full support. Meanwhile, I wasn't done. I mailed a red envelope to Troy's lead investor. Inside, a copy of the Delaware transfer, a flash drive with Miranda's logs, a signed letter that read, I suggest you pull your funding before the FBI does. No return address, just a blank business card, Colton V. Engineering, not politics. I sent 3 more envelopes to 3 more names. Private, controlled, precise. I wasn't trying to make noise. I was building a fuse. By March, the whispers started. Industry boards, private chat threads, local news blogs, Vance ForgeWorks under audit, internal shakeup, no comment from CEO Franklin Vance. I never spoke to press. Didn't have to. Truth does its own talking. Then came the letter. Certified, cream envelope. From the Iowa Securities Division. They wanted a statement. They already had documents. They already had Miranda's logs. I called, gave them a quiet, complete factual account. No opinions, no speculation, just facts. 2 days later, Troy's name hit the news. Financial misconduct, misuse of R&D funds, forgery under investigation. No mugshot, no handcuffs. But the photo they used Troy in a suit. Red eyes, mid-blink. Perfect. Franklin went on local radio, tried to control the story. It's internal confusion, routine audits, nothing more. But the board was nervous. Investors were furious. Clients were leaving. People whispered behind doors he used to command. The king was slipping. I didn't watch the downfall. I worked. Reforge had a beta launch scheduled. Halcyon gave me full control of rollout. We brought in 4 new hires from Vance, 2 welders, 1 logistics lead, and Ravi. He stood at my office door one morning. Never thought I'd see this place, he said. I smiled, didn't think I'd ever build it. He held out a flash drive. Final package, clean, secure, ready for demo. We shook hands. I sent one more envelope. This one to Franklin. No return address, no note. Just a single printed page, a scan of his own signature, approving a transfer he never read. Marked, used to justify termination, Colton Vance. He'd know what it meant. He'd know what he missed. I didn't expect a call, but I got one. Unknown number. I answered, Colton. His voice was thin, cracked. I didn't speak. Everything's falling apart. Still, I said nothing. Did you? Was this you? I waited 3 seconds, then said, you did this. I just turned on the lights. Click. The next morning I walked to my truck. There was a box on the hood. Inside, my old work gloves, my steel-toe boots, a folded sticky note. You earned more than I ever gave. No name. But I knew the handwriting. I closed the box. Didn't take it. Left it in the bed of the truck. Unopened. Some things don't need returning. By end of Q2, Halcyon passed Vance Forgeworks in revenue. Not by much, but enough to make the papers. Local underdog overtakes 40-year giant. I didn't give interviews, but I kept the headline. Pinned it to my office wall, right next to the blueprint. Forge Max. Dated, stamped, signed. The gates of Vance Forgeworks groaned as I pushed them open. They hadn't oiled the hinges. Fitting. Inside, the smell had changed. Dust, dry rubber, neglect. Machines still moved, but slower, quieter. Even the hum of steel sounded tired. I walked past the main floor. Some workers looked up. Some didn't. No one stopped me. Maybe they didn't recognize me. Maybe they did, and chose not to speak. Upstairs, the hall outside the executive wing was dimmer than I remembered. The lights flickered once. Franklin's office door was open. He was standing at the window, back turned. I knocked. He didn't look. Colton. His voice was rough, older. He finally turned. Eyes dark, lined deeper than before. The man who once filled a room looked small in it now. What do you want? I stepped in. Closed the door behind me. You know why I'm here. He said nothing. I placed a folder on the desk. Same one he used to fire me. Only this time, it held his approvals. Troy's forgeries, the logs, the wire trails, everything. He didn't touch it. Why now, he asked. I didn't answer. You already won, he said. You got the board, the contracts, the story. He stared at the folder, but still didn't open it. I didn't come to gloat, I said. I came for the truth. He looked up. The truth? You believed I betrayed you? I said. You never asked, never checked, just cut me loose. He exhaled. Sounded like a man drowning. I saw the emails. I didn't send them. He closed his eyes. You should have told me. I tried, I said. You weren't listening. He walked around the desk, stopped an arm's length from me. You really think I wanted this? No, I said. I think you wanted peace more than you wanted the truth. Pause. And peace is easier when you pick the son who agrees with you. He sat, rubbed his hands together. The company's done, Colton. I stayed silent. He's gone, he said. Troy left the state. Lawyers don't know where. I nodded once, then said, you still haven't said it. He looked up, eyes tight. What, that I was right? He didn't blink, didn't speak. Silence stretched long, sharp. He stared at me. No words. Just that silence he always used. That silence he thought made him powerful. But now it just made him small. I stepped back from the desk. I didn't come for your apology. His brow furrowed. I came to let go. He blinked. I continued. I spent years begging for a nod, a pat on the shoulder, anything. My voice didn't shake. It was steady, calm. I built systems that saved this company, contracts that kept us afloat. I gave you my spine so you wouldn't have to bend. He stood again, taller this time. There's more to leadership than being right, he said. Then maybe you shouldn't have chosen Troy. The name cracked the air like a slap. He flinched, then turned back to the window. He's still my son, so am I. He didn't respond, just stared out over the factory floor, where fewer machines moved now, where fewer people worked, where legacy was fading. You can stay bitter, I said, or you can fix what's left. He chuckled once, a dry, lifeless sound. It's too late for fixing. I walked toward the door, stopped, turned back. I left something in the box. He raised an eyebrow. What box? The one you put on my truck. He froze, then looked down. Slowly sat again. I opened the door. I didn't need your gloves, I said. Pause. I needed your respect. The hallway was still empty. My footsteps echoed. Outside, the clouds had parted. Sunlight hit the lot in long gold lines. I took a breath, felt it deeper than I had in months. Got in my truck, turned the key. The engine caught on the first try. I didn't look back. Didn't need to. Some things burn better when you walk away. 3 years passed. I never spoke to Franklin again. Never saw Troy. Never set foot near Vance Forge Works. It closed last spring. Auctioned, gutted, gone. I read about it in the papers. Small headline. 1 paragraph. No one mentioned my name. That was fine. My life moved forward. Reforge expanded to 5 states. We hired welders, mothers, veterans, dropouts who needed one chance. We built more than machines. We built people. One evening I stood in my office, looking out over the new assembly floor. It was loud, alive. The scent of steel and hot oil filled the air. But it didn't smell like the old factory. It smelled like something honest. I turned and saw Ravi walking toward me. Shipments out, he said. Clients are thrilled. Good. He paused. You okay? I nodded. Better than I've ever been. He smiled, then walked off. I leaned against the window, closed my eyes, and whispered, I didn't need a father. Pause, I just needed peace. I live quiet now. Work, read, drink black coffee. Some nights I walk along the river. Same place I stood the night they fired me. But it doesn't feel cold anymore. It feels clean. Your name doesn't define you. Your blood doesn't either. What you build, what you protect, that's what stays, even after the lights go out. Where in the U.S. are you listening from? Drop your state below. Have you ever had to walk away from family to save yourself? I want to hear it. And if this story hit home, hit subscribe. There's more where this came from.